The backyard was decorated like a magazine spread, string lights woven through the oak trees, white linens on rented tables, a jazz quartet playing near the pool. Mom's 60th birthday party was everything she dreamed of, right down to the ice sculpture of her initials melting slowly in the September heat. I stood by the bar watching my sister Vanessa work the crowd in her Chanel dress, air-kissing relatives and showing off her engagement ring, 3 carats, courtesy of her fiancé's trust fund. "Another sparkling water, Miss Chin?" the bartender asked. "Please." "Still pretending you can't afford the good stuff?" Vanessa appeared beside me, champagne flute in hand. "It's embarrassing, honestly. Everyone here knows you're the family charity case." I sipped my water. "If you say so." "I do say so. Do you know what Aunt Margaret asked me earlier? She asked if you were still doing that little computer thing, or if you'd gotten a real job yet." "What did you tell her?" "The truth, that you're almost 35 and still playing entrepreneur from Mom and Dad's basement." She smiled sweetly. "Speaking of which, have you paid them this month's rent?" "It's the 15th. Rent's due on the 1st. So that's a no." She took a long sip of champagne. "Typical." Before I could respond, Mom's voice cut through the music. "Everyone, gather around. Speech time." The crowd assembled near the gazebo where Mom stood, radiant in a silver cocktail dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Dad stood beside her, beaming with pride. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate this milestone," Mom began. 60 years. Seems impossible, but here we are. I'm surrounded by the people I love most. My devoted husband, my successful daughter Vanessa, her wonderful fiancé Marcus, and of course, Jessica. The pause before my name was deliberate. A few relatives chuckled. As I look back on 60 years, I'm proud of what we've built. This beautiful home, our family legacy, the values we've passed down. Values like hard work, ambition, and responsibility. She looked directly at me. Some people understand those values better than others. Vanessa, for instance, has her MBA from Stanford. She's a senior consultant at McKinsey. Marcus is in private equity. They're building something real, something tangible. My face burned as dozens of eyes turned toward me. And then there's Jessica. Still in the basement, still working on her startup, still asking us to cover her share of the utilities because she's bootstrapping. She made air quotes with her fingers. 34 years old and living like a college student. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. "Mom," I started. "No, honey, it needs to be said. Your father and I have been patient. We've supported your little hobby for 5 years now. But at some point you need to face reality. You need to stop playing entrepreneur and get a real job." The quartet had stopped playing. The entire party was watching. "In fact," Mom continued, warming to her theme, "your father and I have been discussing it and we've decided it's time for some tough love. Starting next month, your rent doubles to $2,000. And you'll be responsible for your share of the household bills. Groceries, utilities, internet. Everything." "That's more than fair," Vanessa chimed in. "Considering you're living in $1 million home in one of the best neighborhoods in Seattle. Plus," Dad added, pulling an envelope from his jacket, "we're going to need you to start contributing to the property taxes. That's another $800 a month." I did the math quickly. $2,800 a month, plus groceries and utilities. Probably $3,500 total. "And if you can't afford it," Mom said, her voice hardening, "then perhaps it's time to find somewhere else to live. Somewhere more appropriate to your actual circumstances." Uncle Robert, emboldened by wine, called out, "Give her a deadline, Linda. Otherwise she'll never leave." Mom smiled. "You're right. Jessica, you have until the end of the year. 4 months to either start paying your fair share or find new accommodations." The crowd murmured approval. Aunt Margaret nodded sagely. Cousin David gave me a pitying look. I set down my water glass very carefully. "Can I say something?" My voice was quiet, but it carried. Mom's smile was indulgent. "Of course, sweetheart. You're right. It's time for some honesty. Some tough love, as you put it." I pulled out my phone and opened my email app. "Mr. Harrison? It's Jessica Chin. Yes, I know it's Saturday. I need you to send over the documents we discussed. All of them. Yes, to this address. I'm at 847 Lakewood Drive. 30 minutes? Perfect." I hung up and looked at my mother. Who was that? She asked, her smile faltering. My lawyer. Your lawyer. Dad laughed. Jessica, you can't afford a lawyer. Actually, I can. Philip Harrison is one of the top real estate attorneys in Washington state. He's been handling my portfolio for 3 years. Portfolio. Vanessa's voice dripped with condescension. What portfolio? My property portfolio. But we'll get to that in a minute. I turned to address the crowd. Since we're doing public speeches about financial responsibility, I have a few things to share too. Mom's face was reddening. Jessica, this isn't appropriate. Neither was humiliating me in front of 80 people, but here we are. I smiled. Let's talk about my little computer thing first. 5 years ago I started a SaaS company called Streamline Ops. We make inventory management software for mid-size retailers. We know all this, Vanessa said. Your little startup that's going nowhere. Last year Streamline Ops generated $8.2 million in revenue. We're on track for $12 million this year. The backyard went silent. That's... Uncle Robert blinked. That's not possible. It's very possible. We have 43 employees and serve over 200 clients nationwide. I'm the founder and CEO. I pulled up our website on my phone and passed it to Aunt Margaret. She stared at it, then passed it to the person next to her. But you live in the basement, Mom said weakly. I live in the basement apartment, yes. Which, by the way, I've been paying $1,000 a month for. Not because I can't afford more, but because you insisted I should contribute to the household even though I offered multiple times to move out. You never offered, Dad started. I offered 7 times in the first year alone. You said it was better for me to stay here to build my savings while I got my business off the ground. What you meant was that you wanted the rental income. Vanessa found her voice. Even if your company makes millions, that doesn't mean you make millions. My salary is $280,000 annually. Plus I own 65% of the company, which was valued at $15 million in our last funding round. I let that sink in. But the company is just part of it, I continued. Remember 3 years ago when Dad said the property taxes were going up and asked me to chip in an extra $500 a month? Dad's face went pale. I said yes. I've been paying you $500 a month for 3 years. $18,000 total. But I got curious last month and checked the public records. Your property taxes haven't gone up. They've actually gone down slightly due to a reassessment. That money went to other expenses, Mom stammered. I'm sure it did. Probably the pool renovation. Or the kitchen remodel. Or Vanessa's engagement party last spring. I turned to my sister. The one that cost $40,000 according to the invoice I found in Dad's office. Vanessa's champagne glass trembled. But let's talk about property since that's the theme of the evening, I said. Mom mentioned I'm living in $1 million home. He's right. This house appraised at $1.2 million last year. We're very blessed, Mom said tightly. You are. It's a beautiful home. Of course, you also have a $680,000 mortgage on it. Dad's eyes widened. How do you know that? Public records again. You refinanced 2 years ago to pull out equity for renovations. Your monthly payment is $3,400, which, combined with property taxes, insurance, and maintenance, means this house costs you about $6,000 a month to maintain. That's none of your business, Vanessa hissed. It became my business when you started demanding I pay $2,800 of it. But here's the thing about public records, they're very informative. Want to know what else I learned? I didn't wait for an answer. I learned that 427 Belmont Avenue, that gorgeous Victorian downtown that sells for $1.8 million, is owned by an LLC called JC Properties. Want to guess what the JC stands for? Mom's champagne flute slipped from her hand and shattered on the patio. I also own 1834 Pine Street, the duplex by the university, and 5600 Riverside Drive, the 4-unit building near the waterfront, and the commercial property at 890 Harbor Boulevard, which houses a very successful coffee shop and yoga studio. The crowd was staring now, really staring. In total, my property portfolio includes 8 residential units and 2 commercial spaces. Combined value, approximately $8.3 million. Rental income, $42,000 per month. Aunt Margaret made a strangled sound. But my favorite property, I continued, is 847 Lakewood Drive. Dad's face went from pale to gray. That's this address, Vanessa said slowly. It is. And as of 3 months ago, it's owned by JC Properties LLC. That's impossible, Mom whispered. It's very possible. You defaulted on your mortgage payment in May. Then again in June. The bank sent you 2 default notices. You didn't tell me about them, but they showed up in public records. We had a cash flow issue, Dad started. You had a spending problem. But that wasn't my main concern, I said. What mattered was that you were about to lose this house, while asking me to pay you $3,000 a month to live in it. I looked at Mom. Her perfect makeup was starting to run. So, I made an offer to the bank. I paid off the $680,000 mortgage plus late fees. Now the house belongs to my company. You bought our house behind our backs? Vanessa snapped. I bought a house in foreclosure. If you'd paid the bills, it wouldn't have been for sale. Just then a lawyer arrived with a briefcase. Mr. Harrison, I said. Right on time. He came into the yard and greeted everyone politely. Jessica, I have the documents. He handed a folder to my dad. This is the deed. It was transferred to JC Properties LLC, Jessica Chen's company, 3 months ago. He then pulled out another paper. This is a lease agreement. 1 year, $5,000 a month. Discounted from the market rate of $6,500. A lease. Mom whispered. You need somewhere to live, I said. You can sign this lease or find another place. $5,000? Dad looked like he might faint. Plus utilities. First month and a deposit are due soon. $10,000. Vanessa jumped in. You can't do this. They're your parents. I'm offering them a place to stay. If they don't want it, that's their choice. This is cruel. This is real life, I said. You wouldn't be in this mess if you weren't spending their money on designer clothes and fancy parties. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat. There's more. Jessica? I nodded. He held up another document. 3 credit cards were opened in Jessica's name. Total debt, $67,000. Applications used her social security number and forged signatures. All from this address. The crowd gasped. That's identity theft, Uncle Robert said. That's a felony. It is, the lawyer said. But Jessica won't press charges if the debt is paid in 90 days. And her parents agree to a repayment plan. Mom was crying now. Jessica, please. Please what? Keep letting you use my name and money while pretending I'm a failure. We're family, Dad said. Family doesn't steal. Or lie. Or demand money for a house they don't even own. I turned to the guests. For 5 years they've told everyone I lived in their basement doing nothing. In reality, I paid the bills, covered debts, and gave more than I could afford. And they still looked down on me. We gave you a home, Mom sobbed. You charged me rent. On a house I now own. Vanessa stepped forward. So now you'll hold this over us forever? No. Just long enough for you to understand what it feels like to depend on someone, and be judged for it. I looked at her. By the way, have you told Marcus about the $85,000 in credit card debt? 40% of that is in my name. Her face went pale. Mr. Harrison handed me the payment plan. You have 90 days to repay the $67,000 in fraud. Then $18,000 in fake taxes, $500 a month for 3 years. Rent is $5,000 per month or move out. Dad whispered, we can't afford that. Then stop throwing $20,000 parties. Sell things. Get jobs. You have until Monday. Sign the lease or leave in 30 days. Dad asked, why didn't you ever tell us you were successful? Because every time I shared good news you mocked me or asked for more. So I stopped. Mom said, we were proud of you. No, you were proud of what I gave, not who I was. I looked at Vanessa. Just like you're proud of her degrees but ignore her debt. She cried. I'm not the villain, I said. I just wanted to be seen. For me, not my money. I walked away. Mr. Harrison whispered, that was intense. It needed to be. If they move out, I'll rent to people who pay and don't steal. He gave me his keys. Take my car. I'll return yours tomorrow. I drove away from Mom's birthday party in a borrowed Tesla. For the first time in years I felt free. 3 months later. At my coffee shop, Dad came in. He looked older, tired. Can I sit? He asked. I nodded. We signed the lease. Paid the first month. Sent $10,000 toward the debt. Sold Mom's jewelry. I quit my golf club. Okay. Vanessa moved out. Marcus left her. She's working 2 jobs. I know. We're in therapy now. The counselor asked why we used you. We said fear. Of being judged, of failing. And because you let us. At least you're being honest. He looked at me. Jessica, we see you now. Not the money. And we're sorry. My throat tightened. What do you want? Nothing. Just to say we're trying. And maybe someday if you want coffee with us, the real us, we'd like that. He stood up. No pressure. Just, the door is open. He paused. I'm proud of you. Not because you're rich. But because you finally stood up for yourself. Then he left. I sat there watching people move through the coffee shop I owned. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. I'm ashamed. I'm sorry. I love you. I'm working on it. I typed back. I'm working on it too. Not forgiveness. Not a full reunion. Just a door left open.